to a very quiet crowd at Candlestick Park that accepted what happened and left very quietly. It was quite surprising, John.
Jimmy, it's difficult to talk about the game of baseball at this point, given the magnitude of this tragedy. But what about the third game of the World Series? The commissioner, I understand, is going to meet today to make a decision on this?
Exactly. Fay Vincent, the commissioner of baseball, is going to meet with the hierarchy of the sport, and there are architects looking at the stadium right now at Candlestick Park. A couple of alternatives have been being talked about. One, the possibility of moving the series to Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, or the possibility of going to Dodger Stadium. But right now it does not appear that a World Series game will take place at least today or tomorrow at Candlestick Park in San Francisco.
Thanks, Jimmy. Cephalo reporting live from San Francisco. In Washington, White House spokesmen say that President Bush has been briefed on developments in San Francisco throughout the night. And last evening, the president sent Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner to the Bay Area to assess conditions there. Meanwhile, federal emergency officials are already gearing up to help. NBC News correspondent Bob Hager is at the Federal Emergency Management Headquarters in Washington. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, John. Well, this crisis hits just as the federal government and private agencies, relief people, are still all down in the Caribbean and in the Carolinas, still cleaning up in the aftermath of Hugo. Now, on that one, they were accused of moving out slowly. So last night after the earthquake hit, the federal government moved quickly to get organized.
The Federal Operations Center here looks like this, with representatives of 25 federal agencies gathered around one table getting reports. President Bush dispatched Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner to the scene.
Our main concern on behalf of the President and the administration and congressmen that are here and everybody else is to make sure that the humane side of this issue, that human life, everything is being done, and that we are coordinating everything that can be done.
The Red Cross also fired up a Washington operation and said they'd be sending in nurses, emergency vehicles, and more. Red Cross Vice President George Hutchins.
Yes, we know that from the Los Angeles area they're sending up cots and the type of things that needs to open shelters and have temporary housing if that's necessary.
You know, it's ironic, just a month ago, the federal government staged a practice emergency drill out in Sacramento. 500 people went out to participate, and for their make-believe emergency, they chose an earthquake of 7.5 magnitude on the Richter scale. John?
Thank you, Bob. We'll have much more on the San Francisco.
This is the hardest hit in terms of fatalities in the Bay Area. A portion of 880, the Cypress section of 880 in West Oakland on the Nimitz, collapsed. A mile-and-a-half portion collapsed. We know that Leo McCarthy confirmed 54 deaths. The emergency office is saying as many as 200 people may have died when that portion of the road collapsed. Cars were on it. The upper deck fell onto the lower deck, trapping many people in their cars. And they, as we understand it, crews are still working in the East Bay to go through the rubble of that area. Now, other damage that occurred, the Bay Bridge. You can see crews. This is nighttime video that happened. A 30-foot section of the bridge collapsed this afternoon. Crews tonight are assessing the damage. 2 people confirmed dead when that portion of the Bay Bridge, the cantilevered section, collapsed. We also have some home videos of a tourist from Oklahoma who was on the bridge at the time that the earthquake hit and brought out their camera, and they were told to go across the bridge. This was just right afterwards, and you can see that some cars were unaware there was damage, and they went right into that section right there with the section of the bridge that had collapsed. This is, of course, amateur video taken by this tourist who himself was on the bridge wondering what direction to go in. The bridge has been closed. The Caltrain's crews said they were going to be looking at it in the daylight hours and trying to assess the damage. They are hoping to get a temporary structure up on the Bay Bridge by Friday so that the traffic could be going again at least at some degree of traffic, but it will take perhaps weeks and a month to have full repairs. Now, in San Francisco, in the south of Market area, a 4-story building collapsed onto the street at 6th and Bluxom, and that killed 5 people. The debris fell on top of cars in the area. We have confirmed 5 deaths as a result. Again, this is at 6th and Bluxom in San Francisco in the south of Market area. And anyone who was in the vicinity of San Francisco saw the smoke coming from this fire in the Marina District at Divisadero and Jefferson Streets. This fire was burning out of control for 3 hours, and then several hours after that, 12 buildings burned, 3 people died. Crews say that it just, as you can see, the entire block was ablaze. They still don't know what caused it. They think it may have been a natural gas leak. It was very difficult to fight, though, because the water pressure was very low at the city at that time, and crews were forced to pump seawater from the bay to help put out that fire, which was brought under control shortly after 8 o'clock tonight. Now, as in cases of all emergencies, the Red Cross has come to everyone's aid, and we have on the phone with us now Chris Garrett, who is from the Red Cross. She can fill us in on the situation. I understand you've told us there are 15 shelters that are open in the 5-county area around the bay, Chris?
That's right, and additional shelters in the South Bay, probably a total of somewhere near 30 shelters.
All estimates of death, injury, and damage remain tentative, of course. In San Francisco, a ruptured gas main touched off a blaze in the marina section, not far from Fisherman's Wharf. A square block of homes was gutted. Because of broken water mains, the flames were fought in part by a fireboat from the nearby bay. Reports say many gas lines are broken, and the stench of gas hints that the threat of more fires remains. Overall, as many as 250 are believed dead so far, and hundreds injured, but rescue efforts are still impeded by blackout and ruptured communications.
A federal disaster declaration is expected later today to facilitate recovery and reconstruction. California officials have already declared a state of emergency in 7 counties. In Washington, the federal emergency response appears to be moving swiftly, still stinging from charges of lead-footedness in response to Hurricane Hugo.
Of concrete, which are hanging sometimes just by threads. There have been remarkable rescues. There was one man who came from the Impossible Excavating Company, believe it or not. He said that one of his operators had left their business just about 3 blocks from the freeway, just a few minutes before the earthquake struck, and they were convinced that that man was somewhere in this tons of rubble where these 2 freeways had collapsed together. There are perhaps 100 automobiles underneath here. You can see here they're taking down some of the equipment which they have hoisted up here and tried to squeeze apart these twisted automobiles, some of them no larger than 18 inches high. It is just absolutely devastating inside there. The people who are crawling around in there say that they're coming up against gasoline and oil, and a very dangerous situation, which is much like a cave inside between there. And of course, there's no guarantee that that will not move and shift and crush them too. We talked to a couple of people who had been involved in this remarkable rescue of a 55-year-old man, a Yugoslavian, who was trapped in his Nissan that had been crushed literally to right down to the engine block. He was trapped beneath it, but miraculously was not himself severely injured. They did pull him out, and he had a smile on his face. He was saying to everyone that he was lucky and glad to be alive, that all around him was death. There were a number of automobiles in that same section. The superstructure just fell by section and section and section on down. Something over a mile of concrete collapsed on cars here. Words fail to express just the kind of devastation you can see there. The videotape doesn't give it justice either. There's an awful lot of heroics, as I said. People are absolutely abandoning their own lives and any care for their own safety. One man we saw climbed up literally one of those broken stanchions you see there behind that firefighter. He climbed up it with the spelunking gear that he had used because he was a cave climber, and in fact heard some cries from 2 children. I think those may have been the same 2 that Faith was describing earlier. Firefighters and rescue people say that they have gone over nearly every inch of this mile of collapsed freeway, and they don't think that there are many more people left in there. As we said a few minutes ago, perhaps 200 or more people may have lost their lives in this enormous tragedy. These are huge pieces of concrete that fell down. We were told by one eyewitness who said that in a vehicle near his, there were 8 University of California students. The the piece of concrete crashed on top of the van, killed 4 people on one side, and left the other 4 only barely injured. It was a remarkable evening out there. There is just so much tension, there is so much power, not only from nature, but also from these people who are giving so much of themselves. It is a really amazing story.
And it's going to continue all night long,
yes.
and
We'll
maybe the next
tomorrow,
72 hours, I'm sure. You had the earthquake, and then you had immediate reports of a big fire breaking out in the Marina District. Of course, we got the immediate reports about the Bay Bridge, the top part collapsing onto the bottom. Then we heard reports of airlifts going on the Bay Bridge, airlifting victims to Crissy Field, Coast Guard looking and searching in the water for what it would be obvious that perhaps with that type of bridge structure falling, that maybe someone fell into the water, but indeed that didn't happen. Then you have the fires in San Francisco. Of course, the Marina fire was the worst, but there were fires breaking out around downtown Oakland, in Berkeley, but this fire here was devastating. And at one point, the firemen reported that their water was cut off. And where they were getting water from, they, for some reason, couldn't get it anymore, and they just actually had to watch that structure burn, and the fire spread to several other structures. The people that are homeless tonight because of that fire are being put up, and in the Dennis, do you have that? It's the Marina Middle School. Is that it?
Marina Middle School is one of the emergency Red Cross shelters
for everybody who's homeless here
in that area, and another shelter set up at the Moscone Center down on Howard Street in South of Market area.
And as soon as the devastation became known, President Bush was immediately advised. He then ordered emergency services into full swing, sent an Air Force plane to Germany to pick up Governor Deukmejian. At one point, there was almost so many volunteers at some of the crisis areas that there were too many volunteers, and it was we were being asked to tell people not to come and volunteer their help because it was becoming more confusing than helpful. People then immediately were urged to stay off their telephone, but of course that's where everyone went to first to find out if their friends or loved ones were okay, and of course that's understandable, but that caused for some problems initially, tying up the phone lines. PG&E urged everyone not to turn off their gas unless they smelled gas. Then the reports started coming in of looting in downtown San Francisco and in the Oakland areas, and there were reports that anyone caught looting was going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Then there were some officers who told us that there wasn't a lot of that going on. So again, mixed reports happening all day, everything from looting to the death toll. The latest we have gotten from the Office of Emergency Services, 100 confirmed dead at the Cypress structure in Oakland. And possibly, as you heard Dennis say earlier, as many as 200 to 600 may have died there. We're hoping that that 600 is just too high of a figure, but we don't know.
Perhaps we should mention now what you should do next. Many people are wondering what happens next. Well, what happens is this. Tomorrow, you stay home. Most businesses are going to be closed. We heard that UC Berkeley is open, but I wouldn't count on that. Many employers have already called us to say, tell our employees not to come to work. Many officials are saying, don't commute anywhere tomorrow. Just stay home and await further instructions. That's the first thing. Don't worry about clogging the freeways tomorrow, trying to get to your job. There will be more information coming out, but the immediate thing you do tomorrow is to stay home. Now, let's go to Gary Kauf. He's standing by in San Francisco with hopefully an update for us. Gary.
Well, Dennis, obviously driving around San Francisco this evening, you could tell that the most severe damage was in the Marina District, beginning with this bizarre spectacle, this flames just bursting out, going all the way down a city block at Bay and Fillmore in the Marina District. The fire, at least 3 buildings were engulfed in the flames, and I guess we don't have pictures of the flames to show you, but at least 3 buildings were engulfed in them. The big problem firefighters had is they couldn't get any water to the flames. All of the water mains down in the Marina District were broken. They finally brought in pumper trucks, and they were pulling water from the Marina Green, from the water in the Marina Green, running it through hoses and to the fire. The other problem was gas. The gas mains had broken. very heavy smell of gas all through the Marina District this evening. Even a couple of hours after the fire, there were still very, very heavy odor and a lot of fears that there could be, you know, one spark would set the whole thing off. In fact, at one point, one E&G unit of another television station knocked down or crossed a telephone line with their E&G setup, with their antenna setup. And at first, we all thought that it was going to spark and that there could be a fire, and then we realized the electricity is off, so there wasn't going to be a fire from that. The evacuations right now are everybody is being taken to Marina Junior High School. That's what you're seeing right now. This is Marina Middle School. There are perhaps 200 people in this building. They've converted a gym right now for use for these people to put them up for the night. A lot of these people are old, they're frail, they're elderly. They came out of the buildings around Divisadero, the buildings that went up in flames and other buildings that were damaged. They will be staying here all night. All of them tell the same kind of story. They heard just a fabulous, you know, a noise, a boom, fabulous rocking motion going back and forth. And the next thing they knew, somebody came along and said, you have to get out of the building. There's gas burning. There's gas burning. As for me, I felt the quake at Candlestick Park. I was in the upper deck of Candlestick, and all of a sudden there was a strong jolt. People at Candlestick, they didn't really think it was an earthquake at first. They thought maybe people were stamping their feet or there was something going on. Then there was an announcement maybe 15 seconds afterward. Everyone in the upper decks, please go downstairs. Nobody took it seriously. Nobody realized what was going on. Then the lights went out, then the scoreboard lights went off, then the concessions went dark. Suddenly people got the idea that something serious had happened. They turned on the radio and heard about the earthquake. So that's the latest from here. Down in the marina right now, they are still fighting the blaze. They're mopping up. It appears to be under control. The Red Cross is well entrenched at the Marina Junior High School right now. They've got things pretty well organized, and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow morning.
Gary.
All right, now we are back live here after you saw some of what happened immediately during the situation. If your power was out, gave you a chance to see what was going on.
Yes, at 3:23 a.m.
Is that what it is?
No, well, no, not anymore. It's not. It's now 3:31, but at 3:23 or thereabouts, we had another one. At least we certainly felt it here in our studio. It was kind of a little rolling thing.
I didn't feel it. Yeah. I was in the newsroom and I didn't feel it.
Yes, well, we felt it. We don't have a Richter.
Missing.
Yes, we don't have a Richter reading on it yet, but as soon as we do have one for you, we will certainly bring it to you. And as of course the geological experts have told us, we can expect to have many aftershocks. In fact, I've heard reports through the radio and through some geologists and such that it's quite possible that we could have a, quote, aftershock that is as strong as the one that we felt at 5:04, which is a very frightening prospect, of course. And it just makes it doubly important that you do whatever you can right now to secure your home. Yes. Keep checking those gas valves and keep smelling for gas and keep checking that fireplace, and certainly don't build a fire in your fireplace. In fact, try to avoid building fires of any kind until you know exactly what the situation is, because it can change at any moment. With these little aftershocks, sometimes that aftershock is all it takes to break something that wasn't quite broken before.
And if you're viewing us right now on a battery-powered television because your electricity is out, unplug all the necessary and unnecessary appliances, because when that power comes back on, the surge could cause a lot of damage and a lot of problems, and that's something you would like to avoid. We would...
No rumblings here and no feeling of that sort of thing here. We checked around with a few other folks and they didn't feel it either.
All right, thanks very much, Leslie. Leslie Brinkley, who's been standing by with these live reports through the night and early morning until, as it stands now, 26 minutes before 4 o'clock. Our continuing coverage of the aftermath and the preparations for restoration following the earthquake will continue on up through our regularly scheduled 6:30 news this morning. Now, I have a list of people.
For Game 3 of the World Series was scheduled to start. The intense rivalry was forgotten in the tense moments that followed at Candlestick Park when the game was postponed.
I was sitting on a bench, and all of a sudden I saw the ground shaking, and I made a mad dash to the middle of the field. And, some guys said they were out here running, getting loose, and about knocked them over. It was just freaky.
We got a packed house here. There was some... There could have been a catastrophe here.
All of a sudden it hit. I didn't know where I was for 5 seconds. I still feel like throwing up right now.
I feel safe. You know, they come and go. They don't stay around. They hit and go. So I'd have been feeling safe that they're out there. As long as I got some open field, I feel safe.
There was no word early today on when or where the series would resume. President Bush moved into action after the quake hit, promising quick government help. The president has sent Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner to the San Francisco area to survey the damage. Skinner said the government would do what it could to provide relief to the area.
Our main concern on behalf of the President, the administration, and congressmen that are here and everybody else is to make sure that the humane side of this issue, that human life, everything is being done, and that we are coordinating everything that can be done. We've got a major traffic facility out there, the bridge, that is very vital, and that's very important. But we want to make sure that the human lives are being taken care of.
California Governor George Deukmejian is due to return to California later today from a trade mission in Frankfurt, West Germany. Our special coverage will continue at the top of the hour. Now back to Business Morning, and Stuart Varney and Deborah Marchini.
Rick, thank you. We don't want to trivialize the tragedy of the deaths in the San Francisco area this past evening, but the earthquake is having some impact on the financial market this morning. Let's run down what we have and what we know so far. The dollar is down. Some worries that banks in California will not be able to operate their currency trade-in desks. More on that in a moment. No impact so far on the bond market, but oil prices are higher on concern over pipelines and refineries. We'll have more on all of that later on this program.
First, the insurance industry. There's very little information so far. Insurers say, based on early estimates, at least $1 billion in damage has been done. That according to the Western Insurance Information Service. U.S. insurance stocks are down across the board in London this morning. Most of the big banks in the Bay Area say they think they will be able to maintain normal operations. Security Pacific and First Interstate say they've suffered only minor damage. We were unable to reach Wells Fargo or the area's largest bank, Bank America. Elsewhere, the Pacific Stock Exchange says it will be open today, but there could be some difficulties at Charles Schwab. The nation's largest discount broker is headquartered in San Francisco. We could not get through to the firm's 24-hour trading line at any point during the night, but then virtually no calls were going through to the West.
Now, we have oil prices firming this morning. Fear that damage to pipelines or refineries from the earthquake could lead to a shortage of product. However, we have not been able to confirm that there has been any actual damage. We do know that Chevron's big Richmond, California refinery is operating. Currently in London,
bridges were closed. The Bay Bridge obviously will remain closed for some time, and the San Mateo Bridge was closed temporarily for emergency inspection. So traffic was partially trapped in the city for a while until motorists made their way out over the unscathed Golden Gate Bridge, raising the question nonetheless of just how evacuable are the cities for whom these bridges are so vital.
The mayor and his police department and the other city agencies did a good job in San Francisco and immediately moved to gather information and get things under control. So there was no need to even think of or consider evacuation. The problems are going to come in the coming days with that Bay Bridge repair, and we need to repair the freeways.
And yes, we had tremendous backlog up on the freeways for hours. But we had to divert them both down to San Mateo County, and as we could get them through, since the Golden Gate Bridge was still operable, have them go out the marina, open up more lanes on the Golden Gate Bridge out of San Francisco so they could go over to the East Bay by going to the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge.
Is that the plan if there is a larger earthquake?
Well, that was one today. We'd have to take it on the basis of what happens each time, because maybe the San Rafael Richmond Bridge might not be operable next time, but we did do some assessment. The San Mateo Bridge was out. Some people had to go all the way down to San Jose and around to the East Bay by going that far.
In fact, the consensus among emergency professionals here at the command post in San Francisco is that both Oakland and San Francisco are both very evacuable, and that if this whole thing had been a big, giant test of that, both cities passed. In San Francisco, Ed Leslie, Channel 7 News.
We have a report from Santa Cruz now that there has been a substantial police action there to cordon off the downtown area following an outbreak of looting and other sorts of vandalism that had occurred. That again in Santa Cruz. There were reports earlier this evening of vandalism and a certain amount of storefront window breaking and looting in San Francisco. Those reports were confirmed by the San Francisco Police Department to have occurred on 3rd Street in the Hunters Point area. There was some in Hayes Valley apparently, and some of it noted also in the Western Addition. There may have been other incidents. Those simply were the ones that were reported and confirmed by the San Francisco Police Department.
I thought I had a blowout. Is what I thought. And
It obviously wasn't a blowout for the simple fact that I could see that my tires were okay. And then this began to pop, and the cars went in. And then the next thing I had to do was make sure I don't go in there. And that's where we was. Obviously, it was an earthquake, but how much, I don't know. They say 5.2, but I obviously I wouldn't know. Now I'm trying to get my people, which is hard to do because we're up under the shelter. And everybody's safe, and the people in those cars are out. As far as the bottom, I couldn't tell you anything about that. That's about all I can tell you. Yeah. Great. Except for, like, hazardous pay. That's all.
Well, we were just coming from San Fran and on our way home to watch the game, and all of a sudden we see everybody running this way, and I said, hey, let's get out of here. So we were out of here.
Well, could you believe what happened?
I can't believe what happened. I'm trying to make my way to the airport, but whatever happens, happens. We're just going to have to back out and help everybody out of here.
Well, hopefully, you're gonna cancel your flight?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get off the bridge safe tonight.
Right now it's a lot of teamwork.
hope so.
Right now it's got to be a lot of teamwork through everybody.
First, I thought it was a flat tire when I came towards the tunnel, but all the lights went out, and the bus started shaking erratically, real bad. And by the time I got down here, all the traffic had stopped, and I found out that the top deck had fell down on the Bay Bridge.
Well, actually, again, you know, I didn't really know what it was, except for I really did think it was a flat tire, and then eventually I come to find out the bridge did collapse, and it wasn't due to the fault of the bridge, it was due to an earthquake that we had, which was a 6.9 or something like that on the Richter scale. So that's really unreal. But I like to get the message off to my family and everybody know that, you know, I'm okay, and that hopefully I'll be home sometime tonight, and I hope my family is okay.
We could be in the water.
We could be in the water, and I hope we have a lot of people who can swim here. And if not, you can't? That's okay. All we basically have to do is have faith in God.
That's right.
You know, right now I have all the faith in God that He will see us through.
Everybody get off the bridge safe.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And how did it affect you?
Well, it scared the ever-living daylights out of me. That's how it affected me.
Well, you coming from San Francisco. Do you live in Oakland?
I live in Oakland. My name is Josh Meyer. I was coming across the bridge on a commute like I do every night for years, yeah. Right. And I've, in fact, been on a quake on the bridge before.
Really?
Yeah, but
well, this is my first time.
Well, it's hopefully the only time that you'll have to go through it.
Right.
And I just hope to God that nobody got hurt up there. It looks terrible. We were just about 100 yards shy of where it collapsed, so we could see it happen, and it's just a scary thing. But hopefully everybody will be okay.
Yes, we do hope so.
Ditto. We just saw a bus driver in that segment, and he is on the phone with us right now, Doug in Oakland.
Had a blowout. I mean, like, you know, the rear tire had blown, and, hey, I can handle this. This is no problem. You know, just keep the bus going straight, keep it going. That was my initial thought. But then as the bus began to go side to side like a swinging broom, I said, hey, this is way more than a flat tire. And then I looked in front of me, and bam, the cables broke, the thing snapped, and it just went straight like it was going in the water. And that was when I had to stop it and try to look after the people, and that was it.
At that point, were you thinking to yourself, this is it? And I don't mean this is the earthquake, I mean this is it.
I had no choice. I saw that hole, and I said, this is it. If I don't stop this bus, these people, everybody's going to buy it.
How were the people on the bus? Did they remain fairly calm? Were you able to keep pretty good control?
I had about 25 to 30 passengers, and I'd say the majority of them were really good. They had an idea and a presence of mind what to do. I had about 2 to 3 people that was trying to either get out the windows or the back door, but I can't allow that for the simple fact I got to make sure that we're not moving anymore.
Right, you're like the captain of the ship. Basically.
Yeah, I have no choice, you know. And so, bam, I says, I got to stop. Once I got to stop, we opened the door. The gentleman that you had on earlier ran to the red car, and then we jumped out and helped the people in the black car and got them out, and then I called my people, and that was it. But this was a situation where it happened boom, 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 boom. It wasn't like it was, you know, enough time to go through your mind and, you know, collect your thoughts. You had to do everything extremely fast.
What was the worst injury sustained by anybody on the bus?
From what I can see, not being a medical doctor, none. Absolutely none. I didn't see a scratch. I didn't see a bump. But then again, you know, I'm not in the medical field.
Do you have any fear about, once they open up the bridge again, driving a bus over it?
Oh, I plan not to go across the bridge no more. I don't have a choice. I'm an operator where I work the board, and every day I'm assigned a certain particular run. But I do not plan to cross that bridge anymore. I was no more than, I'd say, 10 feet. If you get a shot, you'll see I'm no more than maybe 10 feet.
Yeah.
And I might even had to back up a few feet after the initial, stop.
What do you think is going to stand out most in your mind when you look back at this in the days, weeks to come?
The bridge, the scenes from the movie Earthquake. That's what's going to stand out, because that's what it was. That's exactly what it was, where the people go down in the holes and they're screaming and hollering, the cars go off, and that's exactly what it was like. Hollywood would have been there, they'd have got an Academy Award.
Well, truth is always stranger than the fiction.
Oh,
anyway.
yeah.
Doug, sleep well if you can.
I can't. I've been up. I doubt if I'll sleep for a while.
Thank you for joining us, and hope you'll stick around, because, we could use the company, too.
I'll be watching you, because I'll be up.
All right,
And
Doug.
thank you for being so professional in what you did.
Thank you.
All right, we have been giving advice.
And after those reports, as you heard, and other official reports of structural damage there at the stick, there is no way that the World Series will be played there or in Oakland, because they'd have to check seriously the Oakland Coliseum as well. We do have word that there's a possibility the World Series will be continued and perhaps played in either San Diego or in Los Angeles. We'll let you know about that when we get something further on that. And now?
Carl Sonkin right now has a report for us. He's been looking at the situation in the Santa Cruz area for some time now. Carl, what have you learned?
Bob, in hard-hit Santa Cruz. Behind me, once again, the Pacific Garden Mall. And we're waiting right now for the first daylight when a force of about 100 firefighters will start going through collapsed and damaged buildings there here on the mall. The fire chief thinks that there may be more victims inside. Right now, I have the official figures that there are 3 dead in Santa Cruz, but as I said, the fire chief may think that there are more. Here are some other details about Santa Cruz. 2 days with no electricity, 2.5 days supply of water available, but they don't know if the water's been tainted, and they think that many damaged houses may have to be torn down. Emergency crews will wait until daylight to evaluate them. We talked to a young man who was at the Pacific Garden Mall when the earthquake hit. His name is Robert Rogers. Here he is.
Well, I was in the pipeline, and it's a small head shop down on the mall. Well, I was in the building, and it just started shaking. I thought it was just another small one, because we have those quite a bit around here. And so then just really started shaking really bad, and you just heard things falling. And then as I was running, some guy tripped, and I tripped over him and bounced off the front window right before it broke. And it broke and showered me with glass. And my friend got hit with a concrete thing in his back.
What happened?
The building just fell down all the way down to the floor. Second story down, just down to the ground. And yeah, the whole thing just down to the ground. There was nothing there.
And he was also saying that he believes that other people may have been inside the building, and there was one man that he saw fall down, and he didn't see him come out of the building when the earthquake finally settled down. So as I said, a big force of firefighters from as far away as Sonoma County are here in Santa Cruz.